Hey, good day, everyone. So, after discussing modules 1 to 5, now let's come to module 6, which is the last module, and this deals with post production management. So, the prefix post means after. So, these are management activities done after the production aspect of horticultural crop enterprise. So the nature and importance of proper post-production management, okay, is very essential. Okay, when we say post-production, okay, this begins where production ends. And actually, it starts at harvest and ends when the produce reaches the consumer. And this covers both the harvest stage and post-harvest stage. So take note, okay, post-production starts at harvest, uh, at the time you harvest the commodity, and ends at the post-harvest stage. And the importance of post-production system are, are as follows. It aims to reduce post-harvest losses. So it cannot be denied that uh, post-harvest losses are always there in the post-production system, and that we want to reduce this. Otherwise, the growers or the farmers will have less profit. And secondly, produce quality products for the consumers with or without compromising environmental and human safety. So it's not only the the high yield that should be taken into consideration, but we should take note that the environment and food safety is or are always for consideration. A lot of farmers are or growers are heavily spraying chemicals, sometimes forgetting that the consumers will be at risk with this activity. Now, there are different components of post-harvest management, and this includes efficient techniques for harvesting. So, this is with the aid of proper tools, no, in order that the commodities will not be damaged. Okay, for transportation, okay, the commodities must be packed in such a way that the the damages during transport will be minimized, and handling, just like in the harvesting of some vegetables, okay, just like cabbage, okay, the wrapper leaves must be removed. However, some must be retained in order to protect the head of the cabbage during transport. And then storage. Okay, sometimes the harvested produce cannot be immediately delivered to the market or to the consumers, and therefore it must be stored in areas with low temperature so as to lessen the deteriorative process. And then processing and preservation. Okay, there are some commodities that in excess now they can be processed or preserved, and they are marketed. Now, just like cucumber, okra, sweet corn, uh, they can be processed. They are placed in a bottle, and they can be preserved for longer use. And then packaging also will add value to the produce. Okay. The post-harvest stages uh, uh, is comprised of primary processing and secondary processing. Primary processing refers to operations that would make the harvested produce suitable for the fresh market or for processing. And there are three fields of studies under primary processing. The first is post-harvest handling of perishable crops, which are operations undertaken from the time of harvest up to the time the produce in fresh form reaches the end user. And this applies to perishable horticultural produce, particularly the fruits, the vegetables, and the ornamentals. The second is primary processing of industrial crops. So this refers to operations that prepare the harvested crop, uh, particularly the industrial crops, the coconut, abaca, coffee, cacao, which are the four major industrial crops, and others for industrial processing. And the third is the seed handling, which refers to operation undertaken from the time the crop grown for seeds is harvested up to the time the seeds are used for planting. So this is for seed handling. And then the secondary processing refers to operation that transforms the primary product to other product forms. Example, oil from copra. So in coconut, the primary product is copra, and then the copra undergoes secondary product to produce the oil. And then cordage or paper, a secondary product from abaca fiber, and ketchup from tomato. Okay, the food and industrial processing are classified under secondary processing. Okay, we have here the post-harvest technology, now which stimulates agricultural production. This is a very important technology because of the following reasons. It prevents post-harvest losses. It improves nutrition. It adds value to agricultural products, open new marketing opportunities, and generates new jobs. Okay, as we have mentioned, okay, the horticultural crops, particularly the fruits, vegetables, and ornamentals, are perishables, and that it means that they have short duration, no, as for their in terms of their food value, and that they incur higher percentage of losses, particularly post-harvest losses, after harvest. So for fruits, it is 28%. For vegetables, it's 42%, and for ornamentals, the post-harvest losses is 50%. So a very high percentage for ornamentals. So for instance, you harvested uh, 12 12 bunches of, or rather 12 dozen of gerbera or African daisy, and since it is subject to losses, and then the grower or the farmer doesn't have knowledge yet on the proper post-harvest handling, out of the 12 dozen, so she will have or he will have only 6 dozen that will be left without any damage. So just imagine that, from 12 dozen down to 6. What a big loss on the part of the grower. And globally, food losses and post-harvest waste are estimated at 30% to 40% of production. So look at the pictures below. A lot of losses for horticultural produce. Look at these fruits. So they are rotten, they become dark and so in color, and they are no longer marketable. For the causes of post-harvest losses, it's the poor quality at harvest due to inadequate pre-harvest management and faulty harvesting. So inadequate pre-harvest management, it could be that the fertilization of the done for the plant, no, is insufficient, or the nutrient requirement is not met, or the pesticide management was not appropriate, and so the produce are damaged. And also faulty harvesting. Now, in harvesting, there's a need to observe the use of proper harvesting tool, not just like the use of pruning shear, in order to minimize losses or damage of the commodities. Okay, another cause of post-harvest losses is careless handling of harvested produce and lack of handling and storage facilities and technique. So, for instance, for cut flowers, just like roses. Now, some of the leaves must be removed in order to minimize transpiration, and after harvesting, the roses or other cut flowers or other commodities must be brought to storage room or facilities with low temperature so as to minimize or to reduce the temperature of the commodity inside the commodity and in the environment, which when not done will lead to increase the deteriorative process just like respiration, and this will lead to the short post-harvest life of the produce. Okay, in post-harvest handling, or management, we have mentioned that it starts at harvest. So harvesting is defined as the deliberate separation of the commodity from the parent plant, just like the fruits and cut flowers. So the parent plant is still intact in the soil, and they continuously are producing flowers and fruits. And when these fruits and flowers are already at the right stage of maturity, so we harvest them from the parent plant. Or it could be the whole plant from its growing medium, just like what we do with petchay and cabbage. So when they reach the right stage of maturity, then the number of leaves for petchay is already around 10 to 12, and then the cabbage head is already compact, and so that's the time that we remove them from the soil or from the growing medium. So the whole plant is being harvested. And then we should do this. We should do the harvesting at the right stage of maturity of the commodities. There are two types of maturity to consider when to harvest the commodities. And number one is physiological maturity, which refers to the particular stage in the growth and development of the crop, and is usually marked by the maximum accumulation of dry matter. A very good example here is in the case of banana. Banana at the immature stage have their angles very distinct or prominent. However, when they are mature, there will be the disappearance of fruit angles in the banana, making them rounder uh, in terms of the appearance. Another example is the yellowing of the apical part in the papaya fruit. And the second type of maturity is the commercial, otherwise known as horticultural maturity, which is concerned with the determined end use of the produce and is the stage when the produce is best desired by the consumer or market. Say for instance, in the case of papaya, oh, papaya is could be harvested when they are still immature. That is, if they are intended for pickles, no, or achara, uh, or papaya salad. But then, if you want to utilize papaya as dessert, no, after eating our meals, no, we eat papaya as dessert. So they must be harvested at the ripe stage. So this is what we mean as commercial or horticultural maturity, which is dependent on the desired uh, desired by the consumer or market. Okay, there are different maturity indices to consider when to harvest the commodities. The first one is physical maturity, which refers to the skin color, just like the transformation or the changing of color from green to yellow. Okay, the shape or the size, of course, from being small to becoming big, and in terms of the shape, okay, for from being angulated or prominent angles in banana to being round fingers, drying or senescence in the case of banana, drying or sneezes of leaves, and then ease of separation in the case of okra and also muskmelon. Okay, specific gravity method for any fruits that if we do this, we will if we want to test the physical maturity of a fruit, so we use the brine solution. We allow the commodity to float on water with salt or even without salt, and then those that floats are to be discarded, but those that sink are already considered physically mature. And then the dull hollow sound when tapped in the case of watermelon and also in jackfruit. So we have here some more examples. Okay, in the case of abaca, when the flag leaf appears, so this is the last leaf, the smaller one compared to the leaves that are formed earlier. And then again, the rounding of fingers in banana and in the bulging of the cheeks in mango. Okay, the second type of maturity index is the chemical, which refers to the total soluble solids or TSS, titratable acidity or TA, starch, sugar, oil, and dry matter content. All of these are determined in the laboratory. Okay, almost all of these, except for the titratable acidity, will increase now as the fruits matures or ripens. The third is computable index. Actually, this involves counting. So, say for instance, now the months from planting in FP, or months from planting or flowering, uh, MFF, or it could be days after planting or transplanting, or DAP or DET. So you count from the time you plant the crop uh, until the flower. Just like the examples here for mango, 120 days from flowering. So the basis here is from flowering, and 120 days is the number of days when you can harvest the mango. And then for citrus, 5 to 6 months from flowering. Coconut, 11 to 12 months from flowering, so almost a year or 1 year. And then cacao, 5 to 6 months from flowering. And then abaca, 18 to 24 months from planting. Okay, the fourth is the physiological index, which refers to the changes in respiration rate or ethylene production. In climacteric commodity, there is an absorbed rate in respiration and ethylene production. And for climacteric commodities, these are harvested at pre-climacteric stage in order to prolong or for longer shelf life. Uh, Example of climacteric commodities are papaya and tomato, and thus the exhibits this higher rate of respiration and ethylene production as the ripens. And for the non-climacteric commodities, example is the citrus or the limoncito. So they don't experience this high rate of respiration or ethylene production. Okay, there are two general methods of harvesting. The first one is manual harvesting. So this is with the use of cutting tools just like knife, cutter, sickle, picking pools, and with receiver at the end so that the commodities, particularly the fruits, will not fall to the ground. Hand picking is also under manual harvesting. And for mechanical harvesting, this is with the use of machines in harvesting of crops. Okay, we have here the topic post-harvest handling of perishable crops, primary processing of industrial crops, and seed handling, and secondary processing, all under uh, post-production management. So we often say that Horticultural crops are perishables, while agronomic crops are durables. So, what are then perishable crops? So, these are crops whose quality and food or aesthetic values can be maintained over a short period of time after harvest. And this includes the fruits, vegetables, cut flowers, and some root crops. Say, for instance, a specific example, if you will harvest rose flower today, and then you will put this in a flower vase with water, okay, without any preservatives. No? Okay, this will only last for about 2 to 3 days and then it will wither. But then if you will use preservatives, so this will prolong the base life of the rose, maybe up to 1 week. And so our happiness looking at the rose flower will also be lengthened. Okay, on the other hand, durable crops can be kept for a long period of time after harvest, and this includes most of the agronomic crops, just like the rice, corn, other cereals, grain legumes, and some root crops. I'll say, for instance, I'm sure you are very much familiar with rice. You are rice eaters. So if you harvest rice for this cropping, Oh, that rice, no, when properly dried, no, and then placed in stockroom or bodega, now they are still of use. They are still in good condition even in the next cropping season, no, because they are durable crops. Okay, what are then the importance of post-harvest management? So they are important. This management aspect is important because of the following reasons. Okay, in order to maintain the quality of the produce or of the product, extend the shelf life of the commodities, products can be sold at a higher market price during off-season. And when you say off-season, that's not the normal uh, condition or time of planting. Uh, for vegetable for vegetables, no, they are normally planted during summer when there is not much rain, and if you plant them during off season or during the wet season with the protected cropping technology, so we can have higher market price because it's 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 not the time when they are usually planted by growers. And then we'll have little loss if we have this post harvest management knowledge. Okay. Uh, we have here the storage of perishable products or the techniques to maintain quality of perishable products. Number one is the use of evaporative cooler because this prevents loss of moisture by providing highly humid condition. And example and practical examples of rather simple and practical examples of evaporative cooler are the following. Number one is placement of banana bracts in between spaces of fruits. Okay, banana bracts. Okay, mao ni ang bani, no? If you do not know banana bracts in our dialect, this is the bani, and this bani of you can have this bani when you will harvest your banana if they're already mature, and these banana bracts or bani are placed in between spaces of fruits, no, in a container, maybe in a sack or in a crate, because these banana bracts have moisture within it. And then sprinkling of water on the surface of fruits and leafy vegetable, burying fruits in moist clean sand, sawdust, or coconut core. And the fourth, storing of fruits in a clay jar elevated on a platform with water at the bottom. And then the last is the use of wet cloth tent. So in all of these examples, we have this water, we have this moisture, which lessens or minimize the rate of transpiration and uh, lowers down the temperature, and so respiration is also at a slower rate. Number two technique is refrigeration. So we are very familiar with refrigerator. So we can have the the post-harvest life of the commodity being lengthened by exposure to the low temperature storage in a temperature which slows down the rate of respiration. However, we have this chilling injury at very we have which are physiological injury to some commodities healed at temperature above freezing. So uh, these are crops that are susceptible to chilling injury with very low temperature. Okay, look at this, the chilling injury of these commodities, of these citrus and also of the banana, and they become discolored no, instead of their yellow color, and we are no longer attracted with this kind of fruits appearance. Now, from avocado, banana, cherimoya, citrus, guava, jujube, down to mango, and then cucumber, down to tomato. So these are examples of commodities which are susceptible to chilling injury, and so we should avoid exposing them to this very low temperature. The third technique to maintain the post-harvest life of the commodity is the controlled atmosphere storage. Actually, this is a manipulation of the level and supply of oxygen and carbon dioxide inside chambers with the use of gas generator. So we aim here in controlled atmosphere storage or CA that the condition should have low oxygen and high carbon dioxide. So under this condition, a respiration rate is lower because uh, in our lesson on about respiration, so we know that oxygen is a reactant for respiration, and so if the oxygen level is lower, it is expected that the uh, that respiration rate is also lower. So low oxygen and coupled with high carbon dioxide, this will result to the lengthening of the post-harvest life of the commodity because of low temperature. The fourth technique of storage of perishable products is the modified atmosphere storage. This has the same principle with CA or controlled atmosphere, but differs in terms of the materials used through the use of practical and cheap materials, just like plastic bags or polymeric film. This is also called as modified atmosphere packaging or MAP. We can see here, we can see here banana no? And wrapped with plastic. So do with cauliflower here. So it is they are being wrapped with plastic bags or polymeric films, which has the same condition with say low temperature and high carbon dioxide, which lowers down the rate of respiration. Okay, modified atmosphere packaging had disadvantages too, such as it can cause or exacerbate some physiological disorders, just like the black heart in potatoes. So you can see here, black potato black heart. And so if we can see this, so this we don't eat anymore this potato, and it can cause irregular ripening. It can result in off flavor or odors if anaerobic respiration occur, and modified atmosphere relates or related injuries stimulate pathogen development, which can further shorten the post-harvest life of the commodity because of this pathogen, and may delay periderm development and stimulate sprouting in roots or tuber crops. So once sprouts can be observed in the commodity, so it would mean that the commodity will have short shelf life because these sprouts will use the food reserve of the commodities, and therefore uh, will have shorter life because they will no longer have food to use. The fifth is the commodity treatments. So this is with the use of surface coatings such as food grade waxes, ethylene inhibitors, and sprout inhibitors. So for food grade waxes, so these are applied in fruits. So you can see in in the fruits sold in the market, just like the punkan or the orange, okay, and also the apple. They are uh, they are being coated with food grade waxes, so that they will uh, the damages, or the respiration rate, will be minimized. And the ethylene inhibitors and sprout inhibitors, just like this one, the silver thiosulfate or methyl cyclopropane. So these are ethylene inhibitors as well. And so if they inhibit ethylene production, they will their application will lengthen the post-harvest life of the commodity, because once ethylene biosynthesis is being triggered or enhanced, this will result to the deterioration of the commodity. And then heat treatment also, in order to prevent or to control diseases attacking the commodities. And malic hydride, this is an example of a chemical that will prevent sprouting of commodities, just like in the case of root crops. The number six technique is on the treatments for ornamentals and cut flowers, which includes recutting the stem under water and warming, uh, pulsing, such as short dip in sugar solution, the use of preservatives, usually a combination of acidifier, biocide, and carbon source, will lengthen the post-harvest life of ornamentals and cut flowers. Because with the use of acidifiers actually are chemicals that brings down or maintain the pH of the solution to a level which can enhance the absorption of water and nutrients for the cut flowers. And biocide are chemicals that will prevent infection with pathogen, and carbon source to provide being provided by sugar in order to lengthen the post-harvest life of the cut flowers and ornamentals. Okay, for the post-production handling, okay, we have mentioned a while ago that these are composed of the primary processing and secondary processing. So for the primary processing, this involves alteration of the harvested crop to produce the primary product, and handling of products to make them suitable to the needs of manufacturers or consumers. Examples of these in the case of coconut. We know very well that the primary product of coconut is copra. But before copra is produced, okay, the coconut is subjected to the following primary processing operations. First is the dehusking, no? And then dehusking meaning pagbunot, no? And then splitting, no? Pagbuak, drying, no? Pagbuad, deshelling meaning the coconut meat is being removed from the shell or bagol, and then grading and storage. Okay, for abaca are subjected to the following primary processing operations, such as toxying, stripping, and drying, and we'll have the fibers as the primary product. And for tomato, they are subjected to washing, sorting, grading, waxing to produce the fresh tomatoes. Okay, the secondary processing operations involves the conversion of primary products into forms that reach the consumers, and forms, texture, and shape are changed from primary product to secondary product. Examples here. Okay, we know that, copra is the primary product of coconut. Then This copra will undergo secondary processing operations to produce coconut oil. And this we are using for our cooking of our food. And for abaca fibers, okay, we also are aware that fibers are the primary product of abaca, and these fibers undergo secondary processing operations to produce cloth, currency, bills, and others. For tomatoes, okay, the secondary products are tomato sauce and paste. Okay, there are four basic secondary processing operations. This includes heat sterilization, which is done to inactivate enzymes and kill microorganisms. This includes short dip in 85 to 90 degrees centigrade water. The second basic secondary processing operation is dehydration, which involves dipping in boiling water for 1 to 5 minutes. This is also known as blanching, and this is considered as easy and cheap alternative method of preserving commodities. Okay, the third is fermentation, which is also known as pickling. This inhibits growth of destructive microorganisms in a solution of vinegar and spices. And the last is freezing. This involves quick freezing using special freezer to avoid crystallization and damage of tissues of the produce. For example, here is the use of tunnel freezer. Okay. In terms of seed handling, okay, it differs with the type of seeds. Okay, horticultural seeds are classified into orthodox and recalcitrant. Orthodox seeds are characterized by being small in size. They require reduction in moisture content, and they have long storage life, and this includes most of the vegetables and some ornamental seeds. So we have here seeds of orthodox or plants having the orthodox seeds. So you can see that they are smaller. On the other hand, the recalcitrant seeds are bigger in size, just like the pictures here at the right side, and they have a short storage life. They do not require reduction of moisture content. A reduction of moisture content will lead to the loss of their viability. And then seeds of most fruit crops and some plantation crops are examples of or belong to recalcitrant seeds. So what we can identify here is the seeds of avocado. Uh, also here, I think this is mango. We also have here coconut, and some are not clear, no. But other examples of recalcitrant seeds includes the seeds of cacao, and also seeds of rambutan. Uh, So you can imagine that they are bigger and that they have these mucilades, surrounding the fruits. And bear in mind that they should not or you should not expose them to the heat of the sun for drying. So they are just uh, dried in the under the shade or air drying. Okay, the handling operations for orthodox seeds includes seed extraction, drying may also be done before extraction, and then after drying, cleaning, and then re-drying when necessary, when the moisture content is still high, and then the last is storage. On the other hand, for the operations of recalcitrant seeds, this includes seed extraction, and then cleaning, and temporary or short-term storage because recalcitrant seeds can only be stored for a short period of time. Because of their high moisture content, they are subject to the attack of pathogens, in storage. Okay, in terms of the production of seeds from fresh vegetable plots. So these are the procedure on how to do it. Okay, select the best plants and fruits, exclude fruits with suspected symptoms of diseases, allow only one or two fruits to mature fully, and separate plots for seed production, and then practice proper crop production and crop rotation. So proper crop production, so all the necessary cultural management practices must be given to the plant in order to yield higher and quality fruits and therefore quality seeds. We have here crop rotation because this is one of the method or one of the cultural management practice uh, in order to solve pest problem. Okay. On maintaining the variety, okay, these are the protocol or the procedure. Harvest and process the different varieties separately, lot by lot. So do not harvest them together because there's a possibility of mixing the seeds, and so that will lower down the quality of the seeds. And then extract, clean, and dry the seeds separately. So again, we have this word separately, so that the seeds will not be mixed together. And then label containers properly in terms of the species, the kind, variety, and date. Okay, for cross-pollinated species, the buds for seed collection should be bagged before emphasis. So this is in order to avoid foreign pollen from landing on the flower. If ever the buds will open. And then pollinate artificially during flowering with pollens collected from the same variety. For F1 hybrid variety, okay, the seeds collected will not be true to type because of the segregation of in if2 generation, and usually loses its uniformity, quality, and vigor. If multiplication is continued, a new variety may be selected and fixed. So these are all about Module 6. Uh, if you have questions, we will still meet on Thursday, so reserve those questions. Or if you cannot, or if you have the time, you can also message me in our group chat. So these are all for this meeting. Thank you very much for taking Heart 22, and of course for studying, spending time in studying from modules 1 up to this module 6.